Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have back with us Wayne Miller and Darren Grunberg with Hale Associates, and we'll be talking about building a smart income retirement plan. Guys, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for having us, Mike.
Hey, so I know we don't want to build an unsmart retirement income plan, but we want to talk about everything smart. But I think that sometimes people think about retirement and a retirement plan, and they leave off that word income, because I feel like sometimes people go, I want to retire at this age. I need this much money. And they stop and they don't consider the income or the cash flow. So that's why I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on how this will work for retirees. So how does Hale Associates really approach uniquely retirement planning?
Well, great question, Mike. First and foremost, we focus and pride ourselves on education and clarity. That is by far the most important thing for our clients, is that we educate them and that we're clear in our message. And we make sure that the retirees fully understand each part of their plan before making any decisions. And then we place a very strong emphasis on predictability, because we believe that retirement should feel calm, structured, and secure. So again, it starts with education. If you're educated, it's almost like, I don't know if you remember Cy Sims, at least in New York. Cy Sims was a clothing retailer, and he said an educated consumer is our best customer. It's no different than here. Education is paramount. So one thing I will guarantee you is that we at Hale Associates, we will educate you. We will make sure we hold your hand through the process, because this is a very tough time in your life. It's retirement. It's, people aren't sure about what's going to happen in the future. So the things that we can control is through education and through clarification.
I want to tag on a little bit more on that education point, because you mentioned a quote. I'm going to throw out another one that I've heard in years past. I learned it from Jeffrey Gitomer, the speaker. He said that people like to buy, but they don't like to be sold. Well, what's the difference? We as consumers like to understand and know what we're getting into or buying. We don't want to feel forced. We don't want to have that salesperson telling us something and we feel forced to buy it. So to your point about education, that is the kindest, most ethical way to conduct and transact business, is to teach and educate, because then your prospect, your clients, they feel like you're part of the team and you're guiding them in understanding the process. I think that is really, really powerful.
So if I could just say one more thing.
Sure.
Talking about education, the reason why I funded my retirement with fixed index annuities is for one reason and one reason only: education. Because the guy on the other side right here, Wayne Miller, he educated me and he held my hand through the process. And I'm someone who's pretty financially astute. I know my PDQs when it comes to finance, but when it came to fixed index annuities, I was a little bit apprehensive. But Wayne had the patience and really sat with me and educated me. And through education, I bought my fixed index annuities. And that made me want to help. As Wayne said, we're on a mission to help and educate. And I think we're doing a pretty good job.
100%. So again, I want to kind of dive in a little bit deeper on that income retirement plan, because I feel like a lot of people think, I want to retire by age whatever. I need my money to last until age whatever, and I need X amount of dollars to accomplish that. But that's the 60,000 foot view. What they really need to dive into is what's the gap in the monthly need. And so that's where that retirement income planning comes in. So what separates income planning from traditional retirement planning and investing?
I'll start. I'll take this, Darren, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So when you retire, Mike, the purpose of your money changes, and it's no longer about maximizing those returns. It's about funding your lifestyle with consistency and stability. So traditional investing is growth focused. Income plan Planning is sustainability focused. Okay, so what we do is we take into account longevity risk, inflation, healthcare costs, taxes, making sure the spouse, if they're married, that their spouse is taken care of, market downturns, and sequence of returns risks. So traditional investing cannot guarantee lifetime income. Structured income planning can. And when that income's guaranteed, everything else becomes optional, not stressful.
So,
That's huge that you bring up. I want to dive in on one point there, as it relates to the word that came into my mind is diversification, because I feel like a lot of times people go, oh, I need this much money to retire. And yeah, I hear you talking about structured and income and annuity. That's good. Well, what percent should go into this bucket and that bucket? That's for a whole other conversation. But I feel like sometimes people get diversification defined in their mind a little bit differently. And they go, oh, I'm diversified because I have my retirement income in 20 different sectors and stocks. Well, that's not proper diversification, because all of your money is in that, market bucket, whereas you need to have some money in those safe buckets. So is there a way that you guys begin to educate your clients regarding that?
Well, I'll take this a step further if you don't mind, Darren.
Sure, of course.
Pass the torch on to you. So our approach, I think, is different, Mike, because this is how we pride ourselves in separating ourselves from the pack. We don't just begin with investments. We begin with income, and we reverse engineer their retirement. So what we do is we first identify the monthly income a retiree needs to maintain their lifestyle. And then we evaluate their income sources. What guaranteed income do they have coming in? Whether it's their Social Security, their pension, if they have any other existing annuities. And we determine the remaining income gap. Then we structure a retirement plan that's designed to help fill that gap with predictable, contractually guaranteed income. They might have had an older annuity that they purchased years ago that's not performing. We look at the opportunity for them to potentially replace that annuity to put them in a better position. But then we also take into account tax strategy, inflation exposure, those healthcare costs, any required minimum distributions that they need to take out, and spousal protection. And so our mission really, it's simple. It's to create a retirement plan that works in every market environment, not just the good ones.
Huge.
Right. So I wanted to just go back to a point that Wayne was mentioning with income planning versus traditional investing, and he kind of hit on it. And I just wanted to reiterate it because it is such an important factor. Is that traditional investing is about growing money, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should traditionally invest from the time that you are in high school. Start investing, absolutely. But then income planning is about converting that into income, taking money out of the market from a at-risk portfolio and turning it into a preservation mindset. That is, again, I can't reiterate that enough, because once that paycheck stops when you retire, your risk tolerance, trust me on this, will change drastically and dramatically. And retirees prioritize consistency over chasing returns. That is so crucial to a well-balanced retirement portfolio.
Yeah, at some point you circle the wagons and go, okay, I need to just put this protection around what I've accumulated and built over the years. And that's the shift that you're talking about. I think, Darren, that sometimes people go, oh, I need to fix my car. Let me Google that and let me go to AI and find the solution. You can't really do that with retirement planning, right? Because I think that there's certain mistakes that people will go out there and learn online or from their friend or colleague, and I'm going to do it this way or that way. That could be a big mistake if you're not taking the holistic approach. What are some of those mistakes retirees make when they're trying to do things on their own?
Well, mistake number one, by far and large, is that they think that the markets are always going to cooperate. So again, it's unfair, but if you look at the last couple of years, the market has gone kind of in one direction. So everyone has that false sense of security, but we all know the market could change at any time. And unfortunately, that leaves them exposed when volatility strikes, and volatility meaning the ups and downs. So, some take on more risk because they don't realize that retirement really requires a completely different mindset. You know, they all like accumulation, but sometimes it requires a different strategy than accumulation. And again, with longevity and inflation, which often get overlooked, leaving retirees unprepared for rising costs, over a long retirement is a huge mistake that a lot of retirees don't take into consideration. And unfortunately, too many retirees really try to kind of wing it, without any kind of like structured withdrawal plan or income plan, which certainly can lead to, inconsistent outcomes, especially again with your retirement account. The basis of your retirement account, depends on what the market does. That it's a very, very, it weighs on your brain, it weighs on everything about you. So again, it's all about taking, I say it all, that's the theme here, is taking the mentality of the volatility and the accumulation and be smart and preserve and growth and income. That's what we try to do every single day is educate, clarity, and I think again we're doing a pretty good job doing that.
And one of the frustrations in life, I feel like, is when we have something happen that's out of our control and we go, I wish I could have changed something, but it's like taxes. I can't make taxes go down. I can't make inflation stop or go down. There's things that are out of our control, but we can do things to mitigate and really put as much protections around us, even though we can't control those things. So I think that emotional impact and some of the consistency and learning and educate yourself and get with someone that can guide the process. That's a great point, Darren. So Wayne, what should a retiree do if they want to feel more secure about their retirement income? And I know it starts with education, but what are some of those things they should be considering putting into place?
Well, one thing that you just mentioned is taxes. So taxes, I've learned and Darren's learned for a long time that more investors have lost more money due to improper tax planning in their retirement versus the market. So the nice thing about working with us, Darren, CPA background, on the RIA side of the business, we have CPA background as well. So tax planning is huge, trying to get Uncle Sam off your back as much as possible. I mean, if we look at historically, Mike, we're in one of the lowest tax rates in history. Now, I can't find anybody that I know that's going to say, hey, I love paying taxes. I love giving all this tax money to the government. I don't really know too many people that say they enjoy doing that. But if you look back historically, the highest tax rate was in 1947 when Ronald Reagan was an actor. I believe it was at 94%. He was complaining how high taxes were back then. So we all know that taxes are probably going to be going up. And so having proper tax planning is huge when it comes to retirees if they want to feel more secure about their income. And to take it a step further, really, the first step is clarity. Most retirees, Mike, they don't know their true income gap. Okay, they know what they have, but not exactly what they need. The starting point is identifying those monthly essential expenses. Their lifestyle expenses. They want to go travel. They want to go on cruises. They want to go on vacations. They like to go out to eat. Other guaranteed income sources, and then the gap between the two. And then the next step is to work with a specialist like us who focuses on that structured income planning. And when they can see that income is mapped out year by year with contractual guarantees rather than assumptions, Mike, it transforms their entire outlook.
Yeah.
Biggest thing for us that we've noticed, Mike, is that confidence replaces fear. Clarity replaces the guesswork. And that's the foundation of a secure retirement.
It's interesting that when you have, I want to go visit the grandkids next month. Can we afford it? The worst thing in the world would be to go, let's just wait until the first of the month to see if whatever happens so that we can see if we can do that thing we want to do. And I would venture to say that there should also be a little bit of a buffer in there. Like you need X amount of dollars each month. Let's go ahead and factor in a 15% buffer to make sure you've got a little bit more than that in case one of those factors we can't control creeps up, inflation, taxes, that kind of thing. I think that's a really huge point that you bring up. And about taxes, boy, how do we know taxes probably will go up in the future? Look to the past, look at the deficit we currently have, look at the fact that government spending, whether you like it or not, or believe it or not, tends to be out of control. And all of the ways you tame those 2 points is taxes. So taxes probably can and will go up. How do you prepare for that? You can't ever get out of paying taxes, but you just can prepare for it. So I think those are some great points you're bringing up there, Wayne. Darren, you were going to make a point?
I was going to make one point. It's just the last thing I want to say. The question a retiree has to ask themselves is this. The question is not how much can I make in retirement, but what happens to my income if the market goes down 20 or 30%? That really is the nutshell.
Yeah.
Can you sustain it? Because as Wayne had mentioned in our first episode, sequence of returns risk, if your portfolio goes down 20 or 30% in the beginning of your retirement, unfortunately, it's not going to be a good outcome. So that is why it's not how much you can make, it's how much income you bring in.
And you need to know. I think it's like many times we've mentioned the word fear. If you're fearful of outliving the money you have in retirement, well, if you put it down and you put some really dialed in numbers and you know where that gap is or where the things are to fill the gap, and you have all of those things down and you go, okay, I feel like we've got this plan in place. Well, now all of a sudden that fear is gone, confidence is replaced. And now when something happens, to hiccup, or when you have to take out your required minimum distributions, that plan has already been dialed in and you're doing it sequentially with a plan in mind. Wayne, any final thoughts for you?
I completely agree with what you're saying. It comes down to having that structured plan, looking at the whole financial picture, not just one thing. And, that's what we're here to do, is to give retirees that peace of mind and confidence and clarity. And ultimately, Darren and I want to be a blessing to them in their retirement and have lifelong relationships with them. That's what we're in this for.
Education, relationships, lifelong, all those are key phrases that you get from people that really care and that want to guide the process. So, guys, if someone is interested in learning a little bit more and reaching out and connecting with you, what's the best way that they can do that?
They can go to our website, which is www.hale, that's HALE, and associates.net. www.haleandassociates.net.
Excellent, guys. Thank you so much for coming back on. It's been a real pleasure.
Hey, great to see you, Mike.
Mike, thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks.
Investment advisory services are offered through RLB Financial, a registered investment advisor. Insurance products and services are offered through individually licensed and appointed insurance agents. California Insurance License Number 0G30788.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.